Hey guys, Sue's here. Welcome back to our channel and another What's for Dinner on Keto, easy keto recipes and meal ideas for you guys. If you're new here, welcome. Please consider hitting that subscribe button and join in the crew. Every Sunday we do a new video with 4 new keto recipes and we look forward to having you join us. Let's get into the video. I wanna catch the wave. First off this week, we made a beef ricotta casserole. This was inspired by Carrie's experimental kitchen recipe. I will link down below. She used mushrooms. I don't like the texture of them, so I didn't. But if you want it to have a little bit more of a thick texture to it, you should add the mushrooms. So to start with, in a medium-sized skillet over medium heat, I just started grounding up some lean ground beef and browning it. Once I started getting it kind of cooked some, just a little brown, I went ahead and added some minced garlic and 1/4 of a red onion, just diced up, and went ahead and started mixing that together with my meat chopper. I'll also link it down below. I added a cup of no sugar added tomato sauce and a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. This gave it a nice little tart kind of aftertaste. I mixed that all in and just simmered it. And then I think this is a 2.5, 3-quart casserole dish, just an oval one, and added the meat mixture to it. And then I have 15 ounces of ricotta cheese in a bowl. Mixed in a tablespoon of just regular grated store-bought parm and 1/2 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. Next time I'll use a larger bowl as I had a hard time mixing this. Now the recipe called for 2 teaspoons of rosemary and of course fresh herbs. I used dry. I don't really like rosemary that much, so I used 2 teaspoons of an Italian seasoning blend, which just happens to include rosemary, and then 2 teaspoons of your regular straight oregano, because that's kind of the flavor I prefer. And then Struggle Bus USA'd it to mix this up in this teeny tiny bowl. But once we got it all mixed together, it looks like an awesome, almost like an herb cheese dip or something. It looks so good. Anyway, then you just plop that on top of your meat mixture, and I just kind of smoothed it out the best I could. I did not worry about getting it perfect, as this isn't like in a lasagna, so you know, it's gonna melt down and do what it's gonna do in the oven. So my oven is preheated at 375 degrees, and I just popped this in there for about a half an hour, just to let it, kind of get that little brown skin on top. And here you go, guys. Here it is, all plated up. It did turn out more like the consistency of like a stew or something, more so than a casserole, but it was great. The balsamic vinegar gave it that perfect little bite of tartness to it, and definitely a comfort food meal that is perfect for fall or winter if you're craving something and you're doing keto. Next up, my favorite meal of the week. Oh my gosh, this is a creation by Kendra Holly. She is an absolute genius. This is a pork egg roll in a bowl. It's the closest thing to a pot sticker that I have tasted on keto, and I can't wait to make it again. So to start with, I chopped up some regular just yellow onion, 1/2 cup, and grabbed some green onions to chop those, and a bag of coleslaw mix. Here's the macros on that. It does have like sparse amount of carrots, but whatever. Toasted sesame oil, large saucepan, because we need to mix that coleslaw in there, we need room. I do measure my toasted sesame oil just because I can tend to get a little heavy-handed with oil, and in my experience, if you add too much sesame to something, it's just a little overpowering. So I did measure it, and once it got nice and heated up, I went ahead and added a couple teaspoons of minced garlic. And then I added the 1/2 cup of diced onion, as well as all of the white portion of the green onions that I chopped up. And then I'm just gonna saute this on down until my onions are just a tad bit translucent. I didn't cook them all the way down because I wanted this recipe to have a little bit of a crunch to it, like an egg roll would. Then I'm just adding about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of ground pork, and use my meat chopper to mix it all in and get it nice and brown. To that I'm adding ground ginger. I just use dried ginger here, 1/2 teaspoon, sea salt, black pepper, and then I am adding a tablespoon of sriracha. This just gives it a tiny, tiny bit of spice, and mixing that all down until it is nice and browned and all that. Added the whole entire bag of coleslaw mix. I think it was a little more than she calls for, but I wanted the extra veggies in there. And then I added 3 tablespoons of liquid aminos and a tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, and just kept cooking it. I did opt to, once I get it all mixed up, put a lid on it so I could keep that steam in there to really just wilt that cabbage and get it cooked down and well incorporated. And then once it's all done, you'll be able to tell the coleslaw is nice and tender. And then to plate it up, I just topped it with some sesame seeds, and then I topped it with the green onions. It did have a little bit of spice to it. I think more so from the green onions on top than from the sriracha that's in it. I didn't even attempt to feed this to my kids because I wasn't sure about the spice level. And honestly, I didn't even want to share it because it was just that good and my favorite. Again, Kendra Holly's recipe from Peace, Love, and Low Carb. We'll link it down below. She is a keto genius as far as I'm concerned. I will be cooking multiple variations of this in the future, so you'll probably see some adaptation of this again. Next up, we have the most high-calorie keto meal of the week. Oh my gosh. This is another one of Kendra's recipes. It is keto chicken and waffles. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. This knocked my husband's socks off as he loves fried chicken. So to start with, I took about 1.5 pounds of chicken breast. I just went ahead and bought the chicken tenders. I soaked them in a cup of heavy cream in a bowl overnight just so they would retain their moisture, because I am using coconut flour, and coconut flour coconut flour will dry up anything you put it on, I feel like. So in one shallow dish, I just have 1/4 cup coconut flour, and then in another one, I have a large egg beaten all the way, and then I have 2 cups of crushed pork rinds. I just always do a big batch of them at once in a food processor, and to those I mixed in 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/2 teaspoon smoked paprika, and then I just dunk the chicken from the cream to the coconut flour to the egg to the crushed pork rinds, and then I'm just laying them on parchment on just a regular baking sheet. I do have my oven preheated to 425, and I cooked these for 25 minutes just because I don't take any chances with chicken. And I feel like the 25 minutes was perfect. They were nice and crispy and all the way done, but still nice and moist on the inside. And while they were in there baking, I went ahead and pulled out, for this I used a Belgian waffle maker because I wanted a big thick waffle. I went ahead and plugged it in, started preheating, added 2 cups of almond flour to my bowl, and I'm adding 1/2 cup of heavy cream, 3 large eggs. I added a tablespoon of granulated swerve, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, and then I just started mixing that up to make my waffle batter. Now that is the exact recipe for it. I followed it, but as I mixed it, I was like, this is entirely too thick to make waffles. Like this, won't even spoon in, much less pour. So I did adjust the recipe and add another splash of cream to it. I don't really know how much because I just added what was left in my container. And then I went ahead and added a little bit of water just gradually to that as I needed, and kept mixing and adjusting until I got it to this texture here, which is still too thick to pour. But with it being keto waffles, I know that they probably do need to be a little thicker, so I left it at this consistency, and then I just used a ladle and just put a big old ladle's worth into that hot Belgian waffle maker. This is a Presto, I think, flip one. I will try to find it and link it down below. It's so freaking cool. You put it in, and then you do the handle and flip it. It has a timer on the side. I cooked these for about 5 minutes. There's what it looks like finished. And just for presentation's sake, I'm gonna pile a bunch of this on the plate, but my husband and I did split it. So I used the Choc Zero maple syrup, which is a monk fruit based maple syrup. I will link that down below as well. It is my absolute favorite keto maple syrup. And I just cut the Belgian waffle into pieces and stacked it. And then by this time my chicken was done in the oven, and I also added that. And then on the side I added some Frank's hot sauce and sriracha to see which one I would like best. My husband prefers it without the hot sauce, but I like the combo of the hot sauce and the maple, and the sriracha was the winner here. Guys, this was so freaking good. Next up, because that was such a fattening recipe, I just cooked some fish and made a salad. So this is North Atlantic Pollock. This is actually from Costco. This is pre-seasoned. I didn't realize that when I got started, but I had it in the freezer, wanted to use it up. That's the macros. Those are the ingredients. Same stuff I usually season stuff with. Onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, usual suspects. But they also use like a green and red bell pepper, which I thought was cool. So you do get about 6 ounce fillets in the box. I only cooked 3. I did not thaw them out all the way, but semi-thawed. I cooked them for 25 minutes on 375 and didn't add any additional seasoning. So that's what they look like pre-cooking. And here's what they look like post-cooking. Not a large difference. And then I just served them on a bed of super greens with some sliced Roma tomato on the side and some Primal Kitchen Italian Dressing. And again, I didn't feed this to the kids because I made them chicken nuggets and like french fries in the air fryer. So if you like these recipes this week, please give us a thumbs up. Comment down below any suggestions, any recipes you'd like to see in the future, or any keto tips and tricks you may have, and subscribe to our channel to see our weekly videos. Bye, guys.
We've got a perfect storm. We don't care about the second wind or something else to take form.